What's happening? Hammers. How y'all doing? Good? Boy, I didn't think I'd be nervous. You're right. I'm not. I kind of am, but it's all right. We got sitting here, so. A little bit nervous, but that's okay. So, thank you guys for coming out tonight. Table the Stage, first show. A little bit of backstory on why we're doing this. And it really, sitting backstage just a few minutes ago having the conversation, is I wanted y'all to be a part of the conversations that, quite frankly, I get to be a part of every once in a while, right? I get to ask people that I really look up to, like, the why. Why do you do what you do? How did you get to where you were? What the hell were you thinking, right? Because I've got to spend, 30 years in the restaurant business. Absolutely love it. I've got to meet some of the coolest people, some of the coolest guests, some of the coolest chefs, some of the coolest restaurateurs. And just to be able to sit back for an hour or an hour and a half and have that conversation with somebody and to listen to the why, right? The why is always important to me. So that's what this journey is, right? Over the next months is what we're going to do. And we got a killer lineup, but very because this is a human being that I've looked up to pretty much my entire career. And just by going, become friends. And I've asked a lot of the whys, right? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? But tonight we get to kind of delve into it a little bit deeper, right? And you guys got that little thing on the appy thing, right? It gave you the QR code. That's some technological stuff that I'm going to have a hard time with, but because the one thing I asked one time, I told him, I said, I don't have a laptop. I gave it away. He said, me too. You're the only other person that own a computer. Yeah, I love it. Kindred spirits. But let's ask why, huh? So, introduce you to Johnny Carrabba tonight. So, let's see how this works. Here he is. It's your song, baby. It's your song.
Yeah. I kind of look like Slim Shady.
So, the one thing I asked, we didn't really listen to it, but we'll talk about it in a second, is that I wanted, we asked a question, so if you're in the ninth inning and you're closing it out, what's your song?
The song you just heard.
Yeah.
I mean, you only got one shot, man. Take advantage of it.
That's it. Which is a meaningful thing to me, right? Because music is a big part of my life. And you guys were forced to hear my playlist for the past however long you got here, right? So, and it was like, that's just a part of me that I wanted to share with you. Because this is also about vulnerability and learning from each other and asking the questions that we've never heard before, right? So, you want to get into it?
I was born ready.
The best part is...
I have to be honest with you. I'm a little nervous, but when I have this little policy, yes is the answer, what's the question? And it's done me pretty good, but when my good friend Chris calls me, sometimes I say, why the hell did I say yes?
Well,
he make a cup of coffee nervous.
Oh, come on.
I mean, he's just moving everywhere. No, I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. It's your show.
See, it's funny because he called me the other day and he said, hey, you have a list of questions? And I said, well, I don't, but I will. And so I sat back and I wrote a bunch of questions down and I sent it to him. Did you read them? No.
I tried to read them, but they were so messed up. And the two of us weren't the smartest people, but I thought I needed a translator.
Oh, man.
I couldn't get nothing out of them, Chris.
There's only four words in each
Ask me the goddamn questions.
Right.
I don't have time for all this.
I know this is going to be the first one that's kind of emotional to you. So I want to hit the emotional right off the bat.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it was the first one you stopped there. Yeah, so I want to know about your family. I want to know about coming to the U.S. Because we had this conversation a while
Yeah.
back, and when you told me it was, I had no idea, right? And so, like, your family's traveling to here.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to start with just something that happened to me during COVID.
Yeah.
So during COVID, they shut us down. They shut our businesses down. And that's pretty freaky. You know what I mean? When you think, you worked your butt off all your life, did some good, and you're going to lose everything, And I really worried about my employees, and we'll talk about my people later because that's the key to my deal. But I was wondering how I was going to keep them employed. And at the same time, just hear me out, but my dad had a stroke in my arms at his house. I was going through a little personal issue that we won't talk about. But they shut us down for our business. They let us get up on 25%. To-go business kind of carried us because we nurture that car side carry out.
Well, you guys are pretty much the best at that business.
We nurtured that, and it kind of kept us going. They let us get open 50%. Then all of a sudden, something else happened, and they shut us down again. And I'm driving around one day with everything on my mind, and I'm driving around, and thank God I was close to Memorial Park, but I started feeling my chest pull. I couldn't breathe. And you start thinking, like, man, I'm getting ready to I'm having a stroke, a heart attack. I didn't know what was going on, but I pulled into Memorial Park, and I started meditating. That's where I kind of do my meditations in the morning. Instead of going to work, and I go to work every day, but I pull in there, and I swear to God, I prayed, meditated, and I should have went to the emergency room.
Probably, yeah.
But I was too.
They say listen to your body. I think
know
that's
that,
the first one.
But Sicilian boys were sissies, and I didn't go. But all of a sudden, I had, and I don't want to get real spiritual, but I'm not saying that Jesus came down to see me. I'm not that far because he wouldn't come see me. But I had a revelation, and the revelation was, I looked at my ancestors. They had to leave Sicily because there was no opportunity. I swear this all hit in my head. They had to leave Sicily. They didn't come over on the Queen Mary. They came on the bottom of a cargo ship, maybe with $1 or $2 in them. Yeah. They get here. Some of them settled in Bryan, Texas to pick cotton. Some of them landed in Dickinson, Texas to pick strawberry. And the Great Depression hits, knocked them out. Then my grandparents and the Carrabbas from Bryan, Texas, they lost their youngest son to World War II in the South Pacific. Then I started thinking about some other things that happened to my grandparents. And all of a sudden I felt better. I said, if they went through what they did to give me this opportunity, then I can go ahead and fight through this. And something just I didn't have to go to the hospital, thank God. It was just mostly a panic attack. But I owe it all to my immigrant ancestors, and, I'm not going to cry about it. I've cried many a times of thinking about the sacrifices that those people gave me in this country. And I learned a lot from their work ethic. I learned a lot from their strong beliefs. And I learned the most from the way they loved their family. And so my family, my immigrant ancestors, had to be the strongest people that I've ever met. We're sissies compared to what those people went through. And we all had, went through our journeys, but my family is everything to me. Especially those old, strong.
Well, you just redid one of the rooms.
Yeah, it's named after my dad, Mr. C.
And Mr. C, and it's just all his photos and memory, it's immortalizing your dad as you're sitting there watching it.
And I learned a lot from my parents. My grandparents on the Carrabba side had a little small neighborhood grocery store on the east end side of Houston. My dad was the butcher. My grandmother originally was my grandmother Carrabba was the cashier. It was a mom and pop operation. All the customers had credit. They would get paid on Friday. My dad would cash their checks. They would pay their credit bill up. And then my parents bought the grocery store from my grandparents. Well, my dad remained the butcher, and then my mother, Rosie, I don't know if anybody knows her, but...
Get out of here.
But then she's the best, just ask her. But my mother was the cashier, and so, when you're young, I didn't like the grocery store business because it was long hours, So I got in this shit. But anyhow, when I looked at my parents, though, the way they embraced the community, the way they embraced their community, I saw the hard work, from 8 in the morning till 7 at night, but I still had a home-cooked meal. I still had my football and baseball uniforms clean. My parents never missed one of my sporting events, or my sister wasn't an athlete, but never missed her events. I make fun of her not being a good athlete, but I look at all the, you don't understand the grind. People would come in that grocery store and say, hey, Mr. C, can you give me 4 slices of bologna?
4.
Yeah, you had to bring out the bologna, slice it, or my mother up at the front selling, a lot of you don't know this, but candy bars were a nickel and penny, and then we had penny bubble gum. That was a business of pennies, but it was really, I'm claustrophobic, but my parents could not leave that grocery store. They were imprisoned because it was a mom and pop, but I learned so much from my family.
But does that, because we had this conversation a few minutes ago about your work ethic now.
Yeah.
It's not any different.
Yes.
I mean, we just showed up at the restaurant, you're always there.
Well, it's a little different.
Always there. No, it's not. It's the same thing. The hours,
My son, Johnny, he's somewhere in here, but and when he was in high school, I said, man, you got to, get to work this summer, so I put him in the dish pit. He was really happy with me. But I just feel like if you want to be in this business, you got to learn from the ground up, and I know we'll probably talk about that later. And he gets his first paycheck. Every 2 weeks we pay, and he got his check, and we're heading home, and he goes, man, I got my first paycheck. And I said, man, that's great. I was really proud of him, and it's not easy, working that dish pit, but so I said, well, tell me about it. And he said, oh, it's like, $780 for a 2-week pay period. And I said, well, how many hours did you work? And I was really proud of this, but he said, 78 hours. And he goes, Papa, let me ask you a question. How many hours did you used to work? Well, first of all, I never counted them. But I said, you got that little phone on you? Calculate. I said, from 8 in the morning till midnight, 5 days a week, and from 8 in the morning till about 1 in the morning, 2 nights a week. And I did that for 2 years. So he adds it up, and he said, there's no way. He goes, that's 118 hours a week.
Huh?
That's just what we have to do, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice. I didn't have a trust fund to lean on.
No, got to put the hours in.
And plus, I can talk all day, but the other thing is that 8 banks turned me down to get my loan back in 1986. The 9th bank gave me the money, but said they needed $100,000 worth of collateral. And my dad put up a $100,000 certificate of deposit. Robbie, I don't know if you know much about CDs, but there's a little friend of mine that's a banker, but and Jim Likes, I don't know if they know, and then Greg Garino, but my dad put up a $100,000 CD for me to get this loan, and I wasn't going to lose it. So because the reason I wasn't going to lose it, because I know how many penny bubblegums my dad had to sell to get that $100,000 CD. So when I asked him, can you help me out? If it went for my dad, I wouldn't be here today. And so I appreciate that.
That puts it into perspective, right? When you talk about 100K and then you talk about selling, what's the margin on a piece of penny bubblegum?
Or a slice of bologna.
How much for a rib? Anybody on that reference? No? Okay. No. So, what was it like working with your family? And still to this day, you've done it pretty amazing. And now I got to the restaurant the other day and your son's out there.
Yeah, my family comes in a lot of different layers,
Because there's a lot of them. Just like cousins and uncles and...
Sicilian boys, we like to appropriate. I'm sorry about that. The only thing about I have 1,000 cousins, right? The only thing about our family tree, it doesn't have any branches. It's just like a straight, we don't, no, but I've been very blessed. I'm going to say that 100 times tonight, but, you have to understand is that originally, we were farmers. Then we got into the grocery store business. My grandpa Mandola had a meat packing company, slaughterhouse and meat packing company. But most of them were in the grocery store business. And then something happened. Something happened. My uncle Tony Mandola, God rest his soul, he just passed away about a month and a half ago. He was dating a young woman by the name of Phyllis Lorenzo. And Phyllis Lorenzo's mother just happened to be Nympha. And Nympha started a little restaurant on Navigation. That's the neighborhood I was raised in. I was raised on the eastern side of Houston. And she had a tortilla company, but she was a widow, young widow with 5 children. And she believed in sending them to Catholic schools. Not that the tuition was that much back then, but she had to survive. And she started this little thing called Nympha's on Navigation. And I don't care what anybody tells y'all. There's been some popular restaurants here in Houston. The hottest, most popular restaurant ever was Nympha's on Navigation. And she was a pioneer. So since my uncle, Tony Mandola, was dating Phyllis, he was there day one, and he worked that. I don't know if I'm going too far with you, man.
You're great.
Huh?
You are, like I said.
I'm a ball hog, man. I'm a glory hog. What was your name? I don't remember your name.
So this is the best part about this is that, like, y'all are here, but this is really just for me. I mean, I'll be honest with you.
Hey,
I can listen to this all day long.
I don't know how we need to be here, but this dumb shit hand listen to one thing I've told him. I'm telling you, man. I try to talk some sense into him, but his head is just so thick.
There's a lot of people in here that would agree with that statement.
But anyhow, you got to listen to his history, though. But then Tony broke off from Nympha's, learned a lot there. It was like, and then he opened up a restaurant in West Dallas called Nino's with my Uncle Vincent. Mm-hmm. Right?
See the layers?
And then from there, that relationship got a little volatile, and he split off, and he opened up something called Tony Mandola's Blue Oyster Bar. And I was very fortunate. I worked for all my uncles. I worked for, I didn't work at Nympha's, but I worked for my Uncle Vincent at Nino's. I worked for my Uncle Tony before I started Carrabba's. And then I went to Damien's, who was the youngest boy, and he was the mastermind of Carrabba's. But I was blessed, man. I was born on third and think I hit a triple.
I'm not even sure what that means, but I kind of like it.
It was easy for me. I didn't have to do anything. They did it all.
Not necessarily a true statement. No.
But I learned a lot from my family, man. It's all about, yeah.
I like to see the reflection, like sitting.
I need to shut up, though.
No, I'll take that pause. I love it. I love that look. What was it like with the food growing up? Because you said, you got a big Italian family, a big Sicilian family, and there's like one big day a week, right?
Yeah. I have I'm not here to promote anything. I'm just here for my friend Chris Shepard, and I see all my friends out here. I just want to thank y'all for everything. Number one, I didn't do that when I first started, but I want to thank all of you for your love and your support for nearly 4 decades. Most restaurants don't make it that long, and we just got lucky. But
there's a lot of reasons for that too, though.
Well, I learned everything. Like I said, I have this new cookbook coming out, and I'm signing pages. You'll see a blister. I already showed you this, right? My golf buddies are here. My golf buddies are here right now. I'm gonna tell them how sore this damn finger is right now, but I can't do it in front of y'all. I'll do it on Sunday. But anyhow, this thing I'm telling you. But there's one thing I put. I sign them differently, but one of the things that I really sign is that I couldn't have did it without my family. I owe everything to my family, my team, and to you. But what was the question again, man? I'm sorry, I got ADD. I really do. I got it bad, especially when I'm on tequila. I just can't do it. Ask me the question again.
Just like the food culture of your family.
Oh, God. Oh, I love this story. I love this. First of all, my two favorite people, I love my mother, I love my dad, and I love my two children most of the time. But I got to tell y'all something. My two favorite people in my life have been my two grandmothers. They worked their ass off. They were selfless. They never had to beat their chest about who they were or what they did. They just lived a life of giving. My two grandmothers would do grocery shopping on Friday. They would cook all day Saturday. They didn't have, me, I'd cheat like a son of a gun. I go to the restaurant, he'd give me the onions, give me parsley, chop that shit up. You know what I mean? I'm a spoiled brat. I got people, but my grandmothers were feeding 20, 25 people on a Saturday. They did everything from scratch. They never asked for help. They never complained. I'm talking about homemade bread, stuffed artichokes, baked eggplant, a good pork roast, suga that they would, suga is like a Sunday sauce, like with meat in it. They would wake up like 4 in the morning and start their sauce. Then they would go to church and they would simmer it. They'd come back and nurse that tomato sauce and with braised meat in it. They didn't want any of their daughters or daughter-in-laws helping them back then, because they didn't trust them. But that meal taught me everything I need to know to be in the business that I'm in now. They cook from the heart. And I never forget, man, my grandma Mandola is really known for her chicken soup. I think you have had it, some of you have had it at the restaurant.
It's absolutely delicious.
And I remember the house smelled so good when she would make her chicken soup. And now we get like a bunch of crisp, real chefs like Chris. I'm not a real chef, but we get like a number of spoons and we taste with spoons. Back then, my grandmother would be at home and she would just mix the soup up, put it in the palm of her hand, and eat it. And then she knew if she needed more salt, more pepper, if she knew she had needed more reduction, or she knew she had to go in there with a potato masher and smash the carrots and the potatoes down to starch it up. She was nursing this soup. And again, I'm going to say it again. That's all I needed to know for the business that I'm in. The family meal taught me everything that I need to know for this business. And I can't even talk about my grandmothers. Yep. The truth. And you know what, though? I'm going to tell you something. They didn't preach. They didn't preach. They didn't preach. They didn't tell you who they were or how much they did for you. They were selfless people that gave. I'm emotional, man. They gave from the heart. You know what I mean? There was no way, they weren't on an agenda. They loved their family. And they showed their love in a lot of ways, but they showed their love through their food.
You kind of do the same.
Do what?
You do the same.
Yeah, but I don't cook like them. They were good.
This is why I wanted to do this show.
Huh?
This is why I wanted to do this.
Really?
Yeah.
You sure I'm doing a good job?
Oh, man. Emotional?
Huh?
Emotional.
Oh, man, Italian, man, us Sicilian boys, I need to keep it clean, but we cry at funerals. We cry at weddings. I don't cry at weddings. Now I really should cry at weddings, but if I'm going to talk about weddings, I got to get comfortable, man. No, but I hope this shit, yeah, but anyhow, I hope it don't hit the airways, but I don't give a shit anyhow, but we cry, we cry if we go to operas. And if there's like a little bit of linguine clam sauce, we really cry. We cry. So I'm an emotional guy,
We literally just talked about clam sauce in the back.
We did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
Because it was a favorite food memory of yours. was the fish markets
And yeah,
and clams.
on the Adriatic, you see?
Yeah.
Yeah, when you go to the markets, man, and you see the clam spooing.
Yeah.
And that's a big word. Moto, don't. I did some guys over here. I can't really say spooing in front of them. They get real excited. No, I'm sorry. I can't even see them. Thank God. Man, you get me. Then people fish in the day. They bring their fish to the market, and the restaurants go buy it, and then you eat it that night. That's hard to beat. But linguine, white clam sauce on the Amalfi Coast or something like that, that's the second best meals I've ever had.
What's the first?
My 2 grandmother's Sunday meal was the best meal that I've ever had in my life. We'd have fried chicken too a lot. We'd have pasta with meat sauce and meatballs and stuffed artichokes, baked eggplant, and there was always like either a pork roast or fried chicken, man. That's that southern, because they were raised in the South here. Can't beat fried chicken on Sunday, man, with pasta. And then, oh man, then you I don't watch football anymore, but then you watch football with your grandpa and your uncles, man, and kind of doze off, and you wake up, and you get my grandma's homemade bread, and you make a little baked eggplant sandwich. It don't get no better than that, dog. Huh?
It doesn't happen like that anymore.
Anyhow, go ahead, man. Ask me some more questions.
What, we can talk about work all day long, and I want to ask you about just Carrabba's, right? Almost 40 years, right? What are we at, 37?
37, yeah.
37 years now? What was the thought process going into that restaurant? What was it? I mean, it wasn't easy to get it to get there, right? But what was the thought process of this is the style of food, this is what we're gonna do? Because you said to me, it's Italian, but it's not.
Well, you have to look at it. We opened up in December of 1986. Yeah. December 26th of 1986. I want to back up and tell y'all that, the banks turned me down. 8 banks turned me down. The 9th bank, and that's a whole different story I would love to tell y'all, and I don't know if we have enough time. Maybe later. Because that restaurant really shouldn't have happened, but I met a man at Damien's restaurant when I was just walking down. But remind me to talk about that maybe later, because that's just what I tell young kids. You never know, huh? The banker, the guy that was on the board of a bank, right?
Make friends.
And I'll talk about that maybe later, because I'll start whining, I'll start rambling. But there's something else, is that on Christmas Day, which is usually December 25th.
Usually it is, yeah.
I'm sitting next to my dad, and I never liked sitting next to my dad eating, because he was left-handed, I was right-handed. He'd kind of get in my workspace. You know what I mean? We were fighting, but I had to be nice to him. And I said, hey, Dad. I said, we're opening up the restaurant tomorrow. Yeah, I know we're opening up the restaurant tomorrow. I said, but I need some money to open up the cash register. Yeah, I know all you young people, y'all call it point of sale. We call it, the Sicilian typewriter. But we need to open up the cash register. And I said, I don't have any money. He ripped off about $500. Italian guys, they always have cash on them. So he ripped off $500 for me later on, and that's how I opened up. But what was the question again, man? I get on tangent. I got ADDDDD. Go ahead. Ask me the question again.
What was the thought process?
Well, Damien is a mastermind to Carrabba's. Damien had went to a restaurant called Mezzaluna in New York.
It's not so easy.
I didn't even know you were here. But Damien goes, So listen, Damien owned Damien's. I'm running a restaurant called Tony Mandola's Blue Oyster Bar No. 2, which is near a Cadillac Bar on Shepherd. It was. And I'm there, working it. But Damien, when he would leave home, when he'd leave work, he would come home. He lived in Spring Valley somewhere. He would come down Shepherd. And so he would come in and eat with me, 2-3 nights a week. And he's my uncle, but he's only 6 years older than me. And I think I've done a good job raising a little bastard. But anyhow, but he's a talented dude, right? He's an artist. He's out there. Are we filming this shit?
There are cameras.
Okay, I'm going to say, but anyhow, but he comes into my restaurant that I was running from Uncle Tony. He goes, man, I just got back from New York. And he goes, man, there's a restaurant there called Mezzaluna. He goes, he painted me a picture. He said, man, bistro aprons, nice looking servers. They have the gift, that New York gift of gab, really a lot of like bustling type place. Open kitchen, wood burning pizza oven, pasta in bowls. Well, you know what I'm describing right now. And he looks at me, because he's a conniver, man. Johnny, I like that, don't you, man? Conniver. My son, he loves that word. But anyhow, so he looks at me, he goes, do you want to do it with me? Well, you know, man, my mind is thinking like, what the hell, man? He's recruiting me from his brother, who happens to be my uncle, who happens to be my boss. I don't know how this is going to work. I said, hey, man, it sounds great, but let me think about it. Well, he leaves, and this was before cell phones and stuff. Okay. And so I called his home. I called his home, and I don't know which wife it was, but it was one of his wives. I can't remember her damn name, but so I call, and I say, have Damien call me. But, you know, can I be real up front with y'all? I mean, y'all pay good money to listen to this shit. But anyhow, you never call, when an Italian boy's on the way home, you never call his wife, because you don't know if he's going straight home. But y'all like that one up there, don't you? And I'm just joking. We're really, really good people. But anyhow, so, is this being recorded? No. Okay. But here's what I call, and I said, hey, man, if you don't mind, I can't remember her name, I swear to God. No, but I do. Have him call me. He calls me, and I say, hey, man, I'm really interested in this deal. Same night that he came to visit me, I said, man, can I back up? Us restaurateurs, we get to be really big and strong. You know what I mean? Because we eat late at night. Like Damien was eating with me. We were eating like fried seafood platters like at 11 o'clock at night. Then you eat like that shit, and then you go to sleep real fast. And you get to be bulky, man. You really do. But anyhow, so we talked about this deal. And it was a great idea because at the time, Houston's economy was really down. And it was, we opened up. Am I rambling on you?
No,
let me know, man. Shut me up.
I won't do that.
But it was the right thing at the right time. Nobody had seen an open kitchen in Houston. Nobody's ever really seen a pizza oven, a wood-burning pizza oven. It was a small 3,000 square foot restaurant. We bought this property on Kirby Drive that happened to be a porno shop.
At all bits.
Huh? And yeah, we knew that location really well. There's a guy in here named Robbie Martin. He was 2 years old, and he was already going into the porno shop. What we converted it, and it was 92 chairs and 8 bar stools. We opened up, like I said, December 26, 1986, and it was the right thing at the right time. It was dynamite. I mean, I'm knocking on wood because I'm still superstitious and I'm gonna lose everything, but it was the right thing at the right time. And I give a lot of thanks to my family who had a reputation in this city in the restaurant business. So, like they wanted to go see the little nephew's place. So I give a lot of thanks to my parents, my grandparents, but I've been pretty blessed with some really good uncles, They were very special to me. They taught me a lot. So I don't even know if I answered your question.
I got a bunch of questions. I have no idea where the hell we're at now.
I know, man.
Because you kind of went on a wild, which is kind of nice.
I know. I hope I'm making sense, though, man.
But like food,
I'm real
service,
nervous.
all that. Like what made
Huh?
you, like when you talk about the food at Carrabba's, like what is it that you think? What is the magic of that place? Right? I can think of like 14 things.
Well, the magic really is my people.
Yeah.
With the two original, no, not counting Grace's or the 6 Mias I have, but the 2 original Carrabbas, and I'm real proud of what we did with the chain Carrabbas, but
we're gonna use that.
Oh, okay, well I'll leave that alone. But I'm real proud of my people. Like with the 2 original Carrabbas, I have roughly about 250 employees, of which 170, 165 have been with me 10 years or longer. In the new cookbook, I'm featuring 25 of my employees picture and they talk about what the Carrabbas means to them. But those 25 people have been with me 30 years or longer. So I don't know what you know about yeah, that's it. And so I don't know what you know about the restaurant business, but it's a very transient business. It's not and usually, you say it's not a career deal. I'm the most proud of my people. Yeah, I gotta give credit to my ancestors and all that stuff, but when it comes to my business, I would honestly say I put my team up against everybody because I learned a lot from an older gentleman who worked for Shell Oil. He was a vice president of Shell Oil, and he always tried to educate me, which is a tough feat, but he always said, run an old-fashioned company. If you treat your people right, they will treat you right. If you're loyal to your people, they'll be loyal back. So consistency, I think that I have to really, and people know me. That in here, some of you know me. I still get pissed off if something comes out wrong. But the thing I think we're known for is when you walk in, most of the time you're recognized. My cooks are putting out consistent food. You're greeted at the front door. And that doesn't happen if you have a revolving door with your employees. So the key to me and my family and whatever you define as success, I don't really know the real definition of success, it's been my people. And I can't talk about them. I love them. I hug them every single day. And I have some witnesses here. Every single day, the first thing I do is I go into my kitchen and I hug my people. I love their spirit. I love their spirit. They appreciate me. They're part of my family, and I appreciate them a lot more. I appreciate them a lot more than they appreciate me. But they've given their life for, think about 25 people over 30 years. What industry can you go to right now? And again, you might be a part of a company like that, but where can you go find that seniority? That's the key.
That's real.
Your people are the key.
Because you're talking about somebody who's given up the majority of their working life.
Yeah, well, old-fashioned.
Right.
Where's your old-fashioned, I believe in old-fashioned stuff. When you used to go work for a company years ago, it was old-fashioned. You were there, like Mr. Patterson, who told me about treat your people right. He said, when I went to go work at Shell Oil, he goes, I knew that I was going to be there for the rest of my life. Yeah. He goes, but now young people, we want to talk about young people. Yes, it might be young people. They want to get this job for a couple of years and they want to move on. It might be them. But guess what? Companies nowadays, when somebody starts making good money, they start worrying about the return on investment and they get rid of that employee that's making a lot of money. And so I can't get started on that because I have a chip on my shoulder about return on investment.
Sounds like it.
Go ahead, man.
So, we came in for lunch the other day and saw your boy there.
Yeah.
And just like, is he following in those footsteps?
Well, since he was a little boy, he always sensed the right things. Johnny the Fourth has always been he knows food. He's a lot better cook than I am. He knows. Well, that's not saying much, but yeah. Not all of us can be chefs like you, but anyhow, no. But he knows a lot about food. But even as a young kid, he always could walk into a restaurant and he could sense that somebody wasn't just right. An employee, that manager there has like a little bit of an attitude, or this or that, or that server needs to, work on his game, or, their uniforms don't. He's always had that sense, and he's always really wanted to be in the restaurant business. And so the one thing I really believe in.
Because traditionally, most people that are in the restaurant business, try to talk the kids out of it.
Yeah, I've been trying to get out of it for 37 years, but anyhow. But again, that's really totally up to them, because, he knows what I've always told him and my daughter, Mia. I don't care what you do. I want you to do something you love. If you do something you love, generally good things really happen. But he has a good nose for it. He has something called issue recognition. I don't know if that makes any sense to y'all, but issue recognition. He can walk in, and I think that's the gift that I have an advisor that I meet with him, Arnold Lip, and when he meets with me and my 2 children, he always says, your papa, that's what they call me, your papa has something called issue recognition. He can walk into a place and sense that there's some issues. Well, my son Johnny, I don't want to put him on the spot, but he has that sense. And I got to tell you something about him. He's a lot like me, which is a curse. My housekeeper, who's been with me for 20 years, her name is Carolina. She is like the smartest person I've ever met. She calls me copy, and she calls my son paste. Copy, paste. I think it's the best nickname I've ever heard, but...
I believe she's correct, too.
Huh?
I believe she's correct. As he's growing up and I watched him kind of grow up, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, but no. So he says he wants to be in the restaurant business, but it's up to him. You know, it's up to him.
That's pretty cool, though.
Huh?
I thought it was pretty cool to see.
Well, you know, I mean, I can talk all day about generational businesses. You know, I want to become a generational business. You know, we're feeding 4 generations of Houstonians. The Clace family's here tonight. We're feeding 4 generations of their family. The Recklings are another family. So we have about 8, 10 families that we feed, and we're feeding 4 generations. Well, I always wanted to be a generational business. But to be a generational business, you have to have a good, Jim likes, what do you call it? Like a successor's plan. You know, but I want my son to do what he wants to do. Whatever makes him happy.
That's awesome. I call it an exit plan.
Huh?
I call it an exit plan. Get me the hell out.
Yeah.
So, talk to me about Grace's.
Grace's has been probably my biggest success. And the reason I say that is...
But I'm not saying a lot.
The reason, well, me is too in a certain degree, but Grace's, I had a deal where I wanted to open up Grace's, and I wanted it to be, I had this vision, right? So now I know I'm not a visionary, but I had a vision that I wanted it to be a very eclectic menu, like Union Square Cafe in New York or the Ivy on Robertson Street in LA, right? 2 of my favorite little go-to restaurants, because you can get, you get a lobster tail, or you can get a burger, or you can get fish and chips or whatever. Well, that's the vision I had, and I wanted to put it like this. I had this vision, like, because I owned the land on Kirby, and I wanted to make it look like a house, and I wanted to make it look like, it was named after my grandma, Grace Mandola, and without her, I wouldn't be here, right? I mean, she set me up with, and my uncles, with a lot of beautiful recipes and a lot of work ethic. But so I named it after her. I let her know I was naming a restaurant after her, but she just didn't quite live long enough. She only lived to be 94. She worked for my uncle at Nino's, and she worked for all of them, but it didn't work. And it's been the best lesson of my life. I don't like to talk numbers with y'all, but I was losing about $80,000 a month there. It wasn't really the money. Yeah, the money was, choking me. It was really my pride. But what really bothered me is I felt like I misled my team. I felt like I just led them. This is what I want. This is what I'm envisioning. They did everything I asked them to do, and I let them down. But I learned. I met with about 3 really good friends and customers, and I said, I met them alone, and I said, I need to know, what do you think about Grace's? And every one of them separately said, we really like it, but there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's not a clear-cut vision. What is it? And so I went to my team, who has been with me for hundreds of years, and I said, hey, we got to make some changes. And the president of my company, a guy by the name of Yu Win, who started with me as a waiter 27 years ago, he said, well, I'm going to tell you, man, is failing's not an option. And we put our minds together, and we changed the menu. What would Grace like? Because what was she known for? Because she was a Sicilian woman that was raised in Louisiana. Then we put the Saturday and Sunday brunch in, and that's been my biggest victory.
I mean, I'd say that skirt steak, 2 pieces of enchiladas might be up there too.
Huh?
That little skirt steak with the enchiladas, that's pretty high up on that.
Yeah, we're still working on the fajitas, and it's a work in progress.
Stuff poblano.
That fat ass eats it a lot.
That gumbo.
My grandma's recipe, not as good as hers, but we try.
I love the recipe.
I like the appetizers the most. I think the calamari with a soba noodle and then the sticky ribs. But again, it's a work in progress. I had a little talk today with my team, and I wanted to talk about, hey, what's the next? You always have to be evolving. You can, there's a lot of dead dinosaurs out there. So in our business, you have to always be, sticking to your fundamentals, but you always have to be tweaking things. So if you have any suggestions, I'd like to hear them about Grace's menu.
I'll give you $100 if you want.
I told you an hour ago you're too fidgety.
I ain't fidgety. I don't know how to sit still. They put me in a chair. I don't really know what to do. What about Mia's? Because this is going to back up to my next question. We'll take a little break.
Mia's wasn't working at first either. So I'm not a genius, but.
You have 6 of them. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So anyhow, Mia's. The original menu really wasn't quite what it is now. My deal was I wanted to have a burger joint. And really what I wanted to do, so like I tell you about Grace's, I wanted to build it like a home, and I wanted it to look like the little old lady, Grace Mandola, wasn't sell to all this urban development. I wanted it to be a little home. And this stubborn little old lady, one selling to all these skyscrapers, right? Well, it didn't come out looking quite like I wanted, but I'm still working on this. And but anyhow, Mia's, I just wanted an old-fashioned hamburger. I wanted to put a hamburger joint really actually where Grace's is at, like a little old divey hamburger joint. And I did that, and then, I had like a baked eggplant sandwich. I had an Italian sausage and provolone cheese sandwich. I did some stuff like that, and it was okay, but it just really wasn't making it. And so we put our minds together, and then all of a sudden, we always had the soft serve, and then all of a sudden we came up with the fried chicken and chicken fried steak with a jalapeno gravy, and then we put in we put in a tortilla soup, we put in meatloaf, and we made it more comfort. So I have 6 of those, and
the chicken wings are great.
Who? We have fried chicken.
Chicken
wings, yeah. And we have tacos, and we have a couple, we have an Asian salad, we have a steak salad, we have a Aunt Bessie Lynn's taco salad. My Aunt Bessie Lynn, who's only 10 years old, she used to make this taco salad when I was growing up, because she lived at my grandmother's house, Carrabba, and I put that in her honor on that. She's only 10 years older than me. And then, and Mia's is doing really, really well. I have plans for Mia's. I'm getting the band back together.
So, here's the original question. What was it like when you decided to franchise Carrabba's? When you started to do more?
Well, I wasn't interested at all. So I had these 2 restaurants. Like the first restaurant opened up, 86, and then Damien calls me. He's running Damien's, and he's the mastermind. I was the sweat part of it. And I was sweating, but he called, and you have to understand, I hate to keep talking about this, but I really feel like your DNA is your DNA. My people, and I'm not trying to profile or nothing, but my people are really good at running a small business. Small grocery store, produce stand, clothing store. Well, I don't know what the hell they do, but anyhow, but I just know that that's the way I was raised. So my DNA is to run a small business, just like my grandfather and my dad. My grandfather had this grocery store on Canal Street. My dad took it over. So with Carrabba's, I thought I was just going to have one location. I was going to hand it down to my children who I didn't have at the time. And all of a sudden, Damien calls me, and he goes, Johnny, he goes, man, he goes, I really think that this Carrabba's deal is a big deal.
You can say that.
He goes, I think it has legs. And I said, well, Uncle, what does legs mean? He goes, I think it can travel. He goes, try to find a second location. Well, the way I'm looking at it, I'm working over 115 hours a week, 7 days a week. I mean, it was a grind.
Second locations doesn't sound like fun, does it?
No. And then, you know, I want to just honest, it's like, you know, when these young people come talk to me, like, you know, like they want to get in the restaurant business, I let them know that I remember on 3 occasions I would sit on a milk carton in the walk-in refrigerator, and I would sit there and cry. That's how sleep deprived, nervous. I was just emotional wreck. I, you know, lived in the kitchen. I never left really the kitchen unless there was, you know, the 30 customer complaints every day. But I'd come out and talk to them. But I didn't know. But so I called Mr. Ed Wolf, God rest his soul. I said, Mr. Wolf, I said, Damien wants me to look for a second location. Oh, Johnny boy. He was like Don King, the fight promoter. Oh, Johnny boy. You know, because they work on the goddamn commission. But anyhow, I think that's a great idea. He goes, but I need about 2 weeks to think about it. And I said, Mr. Wolf, he's a really good friend of mine. And I said, Mr. Wolf, I said, you can take as long as you want. I said, I'm not really that excited about it. Give me 2 weeks, man, I'll call you back. Well, an hour later, he calls me and said, hey, I got it. The corner of Woodway and Voss. I said, and I respect my elders, right? I said, Mr. Wolf, with all due respect, have you lost your effing mind? I said, there's been like 4 restaurants go broke there in 15 years. Oh, no, Johnny boy. If you ever know Ed Wolf. But no. There's been 5 restaurants go broke there in 12 years. I said, well, why is that a good location?
Just selling it.
He goes, man, if you take the zip codes of 77024, 77056, those are the wealthiest zip codes in the state of Texas, right? If you run it the way you run that Kirby location, it's a slam dunk. Well, I never even knew what slam dunk was because I'm 5'7". I might be 5'8" when I take my Viagra, but anyhow, Natalie, I'm sorry. He'll explain it to you later. But I didn't know what a slam dunk was, and but guess what? We opened that up a year and a half after we started Carrabba's. That was August the 22nd, I believe. And that restaurant started off busier than the original location, even after a year and a half of being open. But I had a secret weapon. My parents had just retired from the grocery store business. And I said, Dad, I want you to spend some time with me at Carrabba's on Kirby. And I said, Mama, get your ass over there at Voss. And I got to tell y'all something. I don't know if many of y'all know this, but there used to be a linebacker in the NFL called Lawrence Taylor. And I know this don't mean anything for some of you women or some of you guys, but I'm going to let you know, Lawrence Taylor doesn't have shit over Rosie. I mean, that woman loves what she does, and that was my secret weapon. And she's done a great job. And I'll be honest with y'all. I know y'all want to hear some facts, but I really don't have any facts. But I'm going to tell y'all this right now. I'm not really good at saving marriages. But I'm not putting myself down. And I know you don't really need to hear all this shit, but I'm going to tell y'all something. My parents have been married 66 years. And I saved their marriage. Because I put his ass on Kirby Drive. And I stuck her ass way over there on Woodway and Voss. They get along great. Yeah, I learned some shit in marriage counseling. But my mother, though, I'm going to tell you something right now. My dad is solid as a rock. My dad gets smarter from me every day. My dad's solid. He's a man of few words, but he's solid. And then my mother, she's got to be on some kind of dope. I don't know, what is she? What is she on, man? Some kind of designer. No, she really has to be on some kind of designer shit, man, like designer drug.
All right. The best part is this, there's no set time on this. We can do this all night.
I'm running out of material. Not true.
I know. Literally, we could do this all night. You guys want to take a break? No. All right, fine, let's go. Well, at some point we have to.
Really?
Well, Open Table's going to bring up.
Well, let me know, man. I need a drink and I need to go change my Depends.
All right, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick 20. You guys got those little QR code things. I asked, with Open Table, I asked, hey, there's a technology that you can talk to the restaurants, right? When you make a reservation, they send you the thing that's like, hey, you're doing a restaurant, whatever you need. You can text me, I'm on 5 minutes late, you can whatever, right? Hey, I need this. I was like, can you turn this into a restaurant? So people could text me the questions so I could see this come up. So they figured that out, and we're going to do that tonight. I think it's awesome. Because you're going around the microphones and asking people, no, all you got to do is text it and it'll pop up here. So we're going to play with that. You're talking again to the two most technologically declined people you ever meet.
Well, I'm telling you.
I'm not wrong, am I? So one of the reasons I really wanted to be here at Stages is they have a bar. Right? And with Deep Eddie and Elijah and Craig, you can go out, get yourself a drink, and come in and act like an adult and have it in here.
Or you can just go home because you're probably tired of our bullshit. Really. I'm not lying. Y'all wouldn't hurt my feelings if y'all go home. I'm sorry, Chris. I know this is your show, man.
Oh, man. I don't know. It might be our show at this point. We can do this every week. So, I'll take 20. Fire off your questions. If I feel like reading them, I'm going to. If not, I'm not going to. All right?
Hey, Jim Likes? Where you at, Bill? Here, man, do me a favor. Take my credit card and buy everybody a drink, because I know you're not going to spend your money. Here, come on. I'll here, take it. Jim has given me so much money, him and that damn Greeno up there, Rob, but they give me so much money. I swear to God, they gave me all my loans, man. And guess what? Now I don't have to be nice to them because I don't need them.
All right, so I'll see you. We need another drink. We need a refresher. Go to the bathroom, get your cocktail, come back in, hang out with us. We'll see you in 20, all right? There you go. Oh. Sound. That's awesome. Thank you.
Got it, man?
Yeah, I broke the first one. I don't know
Ain't
what I did.
nobody listening to you anyhow.
I know, it's all right. Nobody got to listen to hear you. Y'all get your cocktail, get your glass of wine. Everybody happy? Good place? Chris, you in a good spot? I didn't even see you guys up there. All right. So one of the things we wanted to talk about, I got this beautiful thing, and we'll get to that, right? As long as it doesn't clear out and I have to reopen it, it'll be great. If not, I'm just gonna make shit up.
I'm just glad some of these people stayed.
So, what was it about growing the company, right?
Oh,
so you had two. You had two restaurants. You opened a second one. And then what was the opportunity that was presented to you, and how did it go about? Did you ask to say, hey, how do I do this?
No,
I want to do this.
I didn't know them.
Okay.
But what happened was that I had this little restaurant on Kirby, then I opened up the one on Voss, and then I started having I don't know, some of these rich people that live in River Oaks and stuff, and they had they wanted to invest in Carrabba. They had these family offices, and they would call me. Like I had about 2 or 3 different families call and say, "We really love what you have here. We'd like to put some money into it." Well, I think I said this, before the intermission, is that I was immigrant, man. I was thinking like an immigrant, one location. I didn't want the second one. And so, if I look at my DNA, we don't really want partners. We don't think big, we don't think Wall Street. I don't even know where Wall Street's at. But they wanted to talk to us, and I would meet with them just to be nice. And then, I said, we're just going to stay small and family owned, And then I had a restaurant company call me. I don't know if you remember it. It was a shitty place, but it's called Shoney's, and they called me, and I hope none of you are like family members of Shoney's, but it was a shithole. But they came in and they came in and worked with me, and I just didn't like them. They were typical restaurant trash, kind of like me and Chris and I. But then all of a sudden, I get a phone call one day, and I'm in the kitchen. I lived in the kitchen, I'm not a chef, but I'm a kitchen manager. And I was running my kitchen, and the hostess comes up to me and said, "Johnny, there's a guy on the phone named Tim Gannon, Outback Steakhouse." Well, I'd never even heard of Outback Steakhouse. And I said, "Oh, just take a message." But then, when you're in the restaurant, back then, some of y'all might be too young, but you would get they had a pad, and they would you wouldn't have cell phones. We had them, but we didn't use them much. Most flip phones, but had pads. And I said, I don't want to make all these phone calls on my little break that I might have this afternoon. I said, let me just knock this out. So I go to the phone. I say, yeah, Johnny speaking. Yeah, my name's Tim Gannon, Outback Steakhouse. How you doing? Oh, blah, 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 blah. Doing fine. He goes, let me tell you. He goes, man, our CEO and founder also is named Chris Sullivan. He goes, and we would love to come meet with you and talk to you about your restaurant. And I said, Tim, with all due respect, if it's about franchising or joint venturing or whatever, I said, we're going to stay family owned and blah, blah, blah. He goes, well, let me tell you something. I used to live in a garage apartment in West University in Houston. I was dead broke, but Chris Sullivan called me, and he knew me from like the old Steak and Ale and Bennigan's days, and he goes, I developed the menu for Outback Steakhouse. I'm a 20% owner, but he goes, Chris Sullivan, we have 60 Outbacks. He goes, they're a public company on the NASDAQ. We need another growth vehicle. And Chris came up to me, and he goes, what concept do you like in the country? He goes, hands down, it's a little place on Kirby Drive in Houston, Texas called Carrabba's. When I was dead broke, living in a garage apartment in West University, I used to sit at the pasta bar. The owner's there in the kitchen. Everybody knew my name, blah, 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 blah. He goes, and I know you're not interested. He goes, but these people changed my life. And he said, it never hurts to talk.
It's a true statement.
Well, I don't know what they were getting on, but the next day I said, well, sure, come on down. So I had my CPA, Sandy Beckman, at the time. He looked him up, and he goes, hey, you got to pay attention. These are the real deals. They were, you're too young, but the Steak and Ale people, Bennigan's, Chili's. They were Brinker. Norman Brinker was the godfather of the restaurant industry. Mm-hmm. They were protege, especially Chris Sullivan was a protege of Norman Brinker. So I don't know how they did it, but they were on something called a private jet. They come to Houston the next day. I don't know how they got there so fast. And we had dinner. The first time I ever sat in my restaurant, had dinner like a normal civilian. And
that was hard to do, wasn't it?
Huh?
That was hard to do.
Yeah, until they start talking money. But anyhow, so we got in business with them. And Chris Sullivan, I love Tim Gannon. You would have so much fun with Tim Gannon, but Chris Sullivan, he gets me probably more than anybody in my life. He's been I don't like to use the word mentor and all that, whatever, it's an overused word, but he gets me. He's been a great partner, and we grew it to about 230 units in the United States. And when Chris and Tim and Bob Basham, they were involved, it was a great company. But then what happened was they went to private equity. They sold to Bain Capital in Boston. So I hope I'm not stepping on anybody's toes.
Probably a 2 or 3, but it's all right.
But whatever. when Bain Capital got involved and then Chris and them get out, they changed everything. And this is where I have a problem. I can't stand companies that are so interested in the return on investment. They worry about the profit, the bottom line, so much more than they worry about their product before they worry about their people. And they really pretty much, there's still about 200 locations, I think, out there. But I operate off of pride more than financial gain. Yes, it's been a great deal. Yes, I would do it again. And I'm going to do it again.
You need a partner?
Huh? I really do. I need a good food man. And yeah, I would do it again, but I would control what it looks like, what it tastes like. And, but anyhow, I learned a lot from that, you know what I mean? Because I learned a lot. I learned what to do and what not to do. But there's one thing about it is when a company starts operating, it's like Stephen Jobs said, a company is founded by a visionary, right? He had a hell of a vision. A little bit different than rolling meatballs, but he had a hell of a vision. He goes and they put all their efforts into the product, the consumer, and their people. The second generation, I know I'm gonna step on some toes, but I'm not really worried about it. But the second generation is people that come in that are like financial. And they want to nickel and dime everything on that profit and loss statement.
And you told me.
Why you want to break my momentum, man?
Okay, no.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, but it goes back to what it broke you. It was the cheese.
Well, I'm going to get to that point.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Just want to make sure we weren't forgetting that
But
spot.
Stephen, I'm on Stephen Jobs right now, man.
My bad.
Okay, you know who he was?
I've heard of him.
Okay, so anyhow, but he said then the next generation is besides financial, then marketing gets involved. Nothing against marketing. He goes, but then they decide they don't need the founder anymore. So I learned a lesson. One day I'm in Tampa, Florida, because that's the home office of Outback, and they had sold to Bain Capital, and it's not like I'm really, jealous, but in a little conference room, there's the vice presidents, operators, joint ventures, and they're like in a room, maybe as big as this stage, maybe a little bit bigger.
Which is actually the Oval Office.
And there's three guys, three males, and they're standing up there, and they wanted to talk to us, and they were Bain Capital people. And I learned everything I needed from them, but it's not like I'm really jealous, but they were wearing their little skinny suits, no socks, ankles showing, and their suits, they were real thin, beautiful young guys, but. Maybe I was a little bit envious because I can't really get into a skinny suit, but they were tight. God damn, it was tight. And they get up there, and one guy gets up there, and he goes, ladies and gentlemen, talking to us like we're like ladies and gentlemen, we're in the restaurant business. Hey, dude, whatever. But he said, I want to ask y'all a question. How much does it cost for a tablespoon of Romano cheese? Right? We look at each other, we don't know. You come to a restaurant, we have pasta, pizza, and soup, right? We offer Romano cheese, right? Just like my grandmothers did. What is a tablespoon of Romano cheese? Well, let me tell y'all, let me educate y'all. Ivy League, yeah, but anyhow. So they come to this flip chart, and they go, well, we have 200 restaurants right now, and every pasta, pizza, and soup, you offer but every tablespoon of cheese, I got to sit down. But every tablespoon of cheese, I'm really get pissed off at this story. But every tablespoon of cheese costs between 7 and 8 cents. 200 restaurants, beep, 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 beep. They show all these flow charts, But what we would love for y'all to do is we would suggest that y'all use a teaspoon. And on a teaspoon for 200 restaurants, every pasta, pizza, and soup that you sell, they flip they flip the sheet. They flip the sheet and they say, this is what you would spend. They flip the sheet again and this would be your savings. So I put my hand on the president of Carrabba's, because I went to every opening. I was very involved. I put my hand on his knee and I said, Steve, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. So this young little Ivy Leaguers are up there, they're bantering and they think they're, big shit from fucking Boston. But anyhow, and I looked at them and, I can be a little bit, I'm really, humble, but sometimes I can be an asshole. But anyhow, I looked at them, I said, hey man, I said, they didn't know me from the whoever. They didn't know me. They didn't care about me. I don't care about them either, but they didn't care about me. I don't care. That's been no big deal. I say, man, I got to tell you something, man. When I was growing up, my grandmother would go grocery shopping every Friday. She would be in that kitchen all day Saturday. She would start her sauce on 4 o'clock in the morning. I already told you all this shit. 4 o'clock in the morning, And then my grandmother, she took great pride in taking care of her grandchildren. She served us our pasta. She put our baked eggplant on the table. And she would walk around and she would sprinkle tablespoons of Romano cheese. Y'all in the apartment with Romano cheese on our table. And I say, Mama, after 2 of them, I said, Mama, that's good. And she would throw another one on there. I said, so wait, the way you're looking at it is different than the way I'm looking at it. But right then, I was emotionally done. So I didn't say that earlier, but yeah, would I do it again? Maybe. But I would do it differently because I'm going to keep control because I'm not going to let some little brat from, Cornell or Harvard. And I know it sounds like I'm jealous. I wish I was smart enough to go to one of those schools.
I think you're okay.
No. I'm still pissed off at my parents. No, I went to college to be an accountant. I went to college for 5.5 years.
That might have been the problem.
I went to Sam Houston for 2 years. I went to University of Houston for 1.5 years, and I went to, add it up, I went to University of St. Thomas. 5.5 years, I'm 24 hours short of my accounting degree, and I'm still pissed off at my parents. I really don't know what they cut me off for. I was doing good. Where's Robin Clays? Is she here? She might have left by now, but Robin was in my class. She knows how I was a good student. Go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
5.5 years later. All right. Tell me about With Gratitude. Right?
First book?
First book was beautiful. It is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's heartfelt. The recipes in it are fantastic. But
yeah,
I mean, you put out that book, and then all over the place in the programs, there's a QR code for the new book. But you decided that with gratitude, you didn't say enough, right? Which is cool.
No, what happened is when we were celebrating our 30th anniversary, I like to do something nice every year, but every 5 years I like to do something like, 1 year we gave out to some of our people steak knives. 1 year we give out, I can't remember all the gifts, but for the 30th anniversary, I thought that was a pretty big year, for the restaurant industry, and I wanted to do something nice to give a gift, and I wanted to do a cookbook, which, y'all can tell by listening to me, I'm not a book writer type kind of guy, but it really worked out well. I had a beautiful team. I have a beautiful team.
You do.
I really
you literally do.
Man. My quarterback, Ronnie Atnip. Elise Da Silva in the Bayside Printing. I have a ghostwriter named Doug Williams. My food photographer, Deborah Schmell, they're all the best in the industry. So that I couldn't spell cat if you spotted me the C and the T. But I'm smart enough to know I need smart people, and they did a good job. So that became a very good gift with gratitude. I didn't know what to call it, but I just they said, what are you doing this book for? Because I want to thank you for supporting me for all these years. So somebody said, how about with gratitude? And I said, well, that's kind of a big word for me, but I like it. And then...
Did you have to sign with gratitude? Thank you so much on that.
Oh, you see this blister right here?
I'm telling you.
And that's a good problem. But,
yeah.
But then 7 years goes by, and I started thinking, like, you have to understand. Y'all think I'm just full of shit, but I really mean it. I never thought I'd ever could write a cookbook or any kind of book, But I'll be up front with y'all. Then all of a sudden, 5, 6, 7 years goes by, and I had the idea, like, you know what? I like the first book, but I think there's more of a message that I need to get across. I think there's more recipes. And if you really want to know the real reason why I'm doing the second book, and I think the second book, knock on wood, I think it's going to be better than the first book, but I'm not a self-promoter, right? I'm not like some other people I'm not a self-promoter. No, that's not. No.
There's enough room to wrestle right here.
I swear to God. I was wondering what y'all are laughing about. No, it had nothing to do with my friend Chris Shepard. It has something. Now, I'm not going to. But there's two people that come to mind that they want to tell everybody what they do for the community. No, we don't need to do that. We know what we do. But I thought, you know what? I want to do another book. No, I swear it had nothing to do with you.
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Boy,
I'm kidding.
I'm going to tell you one thing right now. There's a dog here that's my favorite dog. You're my second favorite dog.
I love you.
The first one's my son, but we call each other dog. But anyhow, I got to let y'all know is that I really wanted to do something as a gift. But you know why I did the second book?
Why?
I wanted to leave it for my two kids.
Oh, yeah.
I want them to know the journey. You understand? So that's who I dedicated this next book to, is my two children. Because I want them to stay humble. I want them to know about their family heritage. I want them to know about their family sacrifice. Not my sacrifice, but I'm talking about their family. And then I think I told y'all this earlier. I'm sorry, some of it's the tequila, but I think I told you earlier, but I'm featuring 25 employees in this book. And my people make my business, and this is a tribute to let my children know that these people sacrificed their lives to give us a beautiful life. So that's what this book's about.
So the book is called The Gift from the Heart.
Yep.
You guys have the QR codes in the
It's not that important.
I know, one of the reasons I wanted to do this show as well, not on the self-promotion thing, but was that as, I wrote a book too, and anybody that writes a book, you're putting yourself out there, right? You're putting something on a paper that, where's it at now? What's the museum or whatever the hell it is when you write a book?
Library of Congress.
The library, yeah, you're now in the Library of Congress, which is kind of cool. Julie, who shot my book, is here tonight, and I'll argue she might be the best, but for me, she gets me.
I know, I'm sorry.
No. You find somebody that gets you, right? You find somebody that gets you.
Yeah.
And Julie has always shot everything for me, so she got me. But this became a platform because going out and doing a cookbook dinner, like you work for 2 months to set it up wherever you're going, whatever city you're going to, and then you get to that city, and then you work for 2 days to promote to cook your food, and then you get like 32 seconds to actually talk about the dish and not the book before it gets cold, and so you never get to have a conversation. And so that's why I wanted to have this show as well, was to talk about the books and how much your soul goes into these things, right? Yeah. And what are you trying to say? Like, what are you saying through your book? So you guys all have the QR codes. I would say, and he's got the blisters to prove it. Yeah. He's signing all this, so.
No, with this deal, I'm being honest with y'all. I'm a one-on-one kind of guy. You don't need to go to no QR code. You just come by the restaurant, tell me, Johnny, you promised me a book. And I'm going to personalize it. But, if you get one on the QR code, that's all fine and dandy. But it'll just be like generic, like it won't have your name on it. And I would like to make it more personal for y'all.
It's a true statement from him. Oh, my gosh. You guys took advantage of this thing. Shit. All right.
I'm nervous.
There's a lot of technology involved here. All right. How do you stay mentally healthy during your most stressful times, Enrique? Yes.
Well, I haven't been always mentally healthy.
I don't think any of us are in this business.
But
It's kind of weighs itself.
I could talk all day about being mentally healthy, but I really think that you have to, I don't know, man. I'm the last person to talk about mental healthness, but I really think that you have to be, if you want to be, we're selfless people, but I think you have to be selfish at times. So I wake up really early in the morning, and I have about the first 2.5 hours of the day from 6 o'clock till about 8:30. I have it just for me. And what are you laughing at?
Oh, I broke it. Oh, wait, maybe I didn't. Hold up. Fucking nailed it.
There's no remedy for stupid. But
You know what? That just proves open table's pretty easy.
Okay, so what was I talking about? So anyhow, when you're hitting like a little flop shot, no. So I think that you have to give yourself some time to be selfless. You have to be selfish. So I really believe when I get like kind of in the bad times, I really have to go to the Memorial Park, which I love, and I have to make sure I do some sort of cardio, and then I have to make sure that I meditate and get my mind. But you got to give yourself time. So the other thing is that doing, and I know it sounds really weird, but what's really healthy for me is when I do acts of kindness. When I go out of the way to make somebody's day. So one time I had a personal coach, right? He helped me out through a lot, and I love him. His name was Richard Armelinsky. And I go in one day, and he goes, "What's on your mind?" And I was just going there for a routine because I need somebody to talk to. My kids aren't going to tell me what I need to hear. My staff is not going to tell me what I need. My family, it's all like messed up. So I need somebody I can talk to and be honest. And there's a couple people in this room that have been very honest with me that I really appreciate. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But I needed somebody to talk to from time to time. And so I go into this office, and he goes, "What's on your mind today, Johnny?" And I said, "Well, I'll tell you one thing, man." I said, "I'm getting sick and tired of giving." He goes, "What do you mean by that?" I said, "I do this, for a particular person, but I did this, do this, do this. And I'm being honest with you, I'm done. I'm tired of being nice." He goes, "Well, what are you going to do?" I said, "I'm going to be an asshole." He said, "Well, I'm candid with y'all. I don't have any secret. I'm going to tell you, you want to hear some more shit?" And I said, but I learned a lot from this guy. He goes, "Well, let me ask you just a simple question. Why do you give?" I said, "I give to make people feel good." He goes, "That's bullshit." He goes, "You give because it makes you feel good. Don't change your chemical makeup. Don't change your DNA." I learned so much that day. And so for me to get mentally right, I got to get in the zone of doing acts of kindness for people. And it's treated me well. And, my family, they were selfless people. But again, I said this earlier, you got to be a little selfish sometimes. You got to spend some time for yourself. But get to the next subject, man. I don't want them to think I'm psycho, man. No, really, I'm serious, man. You give me a complex.
I agree. Random acts of kindness are one of the nicest things you can do. Right. All right. What's the best advice you could give a new small business owner? And what's the one thing you did wrong in the beginning that business owners can learn from?
Well, the advice I would give is to the small, person just starting off. I don't know anybody real successful that's worked a 40-hour work week.
No.
So I'm
Absolutely
saying,
not.
do what you love, work your ass off, pay attention to the detail. Small business owner, which I'm still considered small, but small, play your game. Don't grow too fast. You have to build a really strong foundation to build a skyscraper. You follow me?
Got to be a bedrock.
And then I think we've talked about this like on the previous little session we had here. I think you really have to work. I think you really have to work really hard on your team. You're only as strong as your team.
I mean,
you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I hate to be like cliche. I know it's going to sound really.
It's not cliche because it's true.
But there's no I in team. You know, people that think that they're like King Kong, God Almighty, they don't go far. You got to know you need smart people, and you have to tell them what you want. You have to give them a vision. You have to get out of the way. But for a small business person, do what you love and work your ass off.
But I also think it comes with risk too. Right? Be willing to take the risk.
You got to take a risk.
I mean, you open the small business.
Huh?
Take the risk. Right? You took a risk by doing it, and you will find those risks along the way and understand, like, weigh it out.
Yeah. Listen to me. Failing is not an option.
Oh.
People might ask, Johnny, what motivates you? Nah, there's two things that motivate me. I want to prove people wrong, number one, that doubted me. That's my number one motivation. And my other motivation is I don't want to lose, I wish I could, I don't want to lose my job. I'm afraid. Y'all think, and I know y'all think, oh, he's just bullshitting. I ain't bullshitting you. Today was slow at Carrabba's, and Grace's was good actually, but Carrabba's wasn't good. And I think my son's here. He heard me in my morning huddle up. We have a morning meeting with our whole staff, and I told him today, man, I got nervous. I'm nervous, and you can't take your eye off the ball. And I know y'all think I'm bullshitting y'all. I know that, but I'm letting you know the fear of me losing what I have for my family and for my people that work for me. That motivates me every day. And you know this, but I'm working like almost 7 days a week because. I got to tell y'all something. So I give a talk. Chris Sullivan called me. He has a company in a chain restaurant that's about 70 restaurants. He said, man, I want you to be my keynote speaker. And I had sold out of my little deal with Outback, you know, and he goes, and I know that you need a little therapy. He knows me. So I go there, I give a talk to his, you know, chain restaurant people and their spouses and all that bullshit, like a conference. And we're going to play golf, and then we're going to go to dinner. And he goes, hey, man, before dinner, I want you to meet me at the bar. And he goes, what's on your mind? I said, what do you mean what's on my mind? He goes, I know something is bothering you. I said, well, really, it is something bothering me. He reads me really well. I said, well, you know, since I got out of the Outback deal and I sold my percentage, you know, my interest, I said, I'm kind of lost. Like, you know, what do I do now? And I'm being really upfront with y'all. Y'all don't know, I'm open book. And I said, he goes, what do you mean you're lost? I said, well, what do I do now? You know, I know I have the 6 Mias, the Graces, the 2 Carrabbas. I said, but what do I do now? I'm lost. He goes, well, first of all, let's get something straight. And I'm telling y'all this, it's personal and it's confidential, but I'm telling y'all. He said, because it's going to sound like I'm egotistical, but I'm not. He goes, well, first of all, you don't have anything else to prove in the restaurant industry. I know where you started. I know where you're at. You don't have anything to prove. He knew I was struggling. That's the thing about a good friend. We know when we're struggling, when we need help. He goes, the rest of your career, he goes, you've always been really good to your people. The rest of your career should be making a difference in your people's life. And that's what I'm dedicating the rest of my career to. My people have given me and my children a beautiful life. Now, we could screw it up. We don't know yet. But that's what I'm in this deal for now. So I'm sorry if I get off tangents, man.
You're great.
ADDD.
All the D's.
Go ahead, man.
I don't really know where I'm going right now.
You don't really know?
Not a clue.
I messed you up.
Given all the success that you've had with your restaurants, is there anything you would have done differently or glad you didn't do, particularly early in your career? I always say when people ask that, I wouldn't change a damn thing.
I have to be real honest with y'all. You know, I made some mistakes, you know, personally and business-wise, maybe. I mean, you got to understand something. 8 banks turned me down, man. You learn from your failures. You learn from your success. I don't think I would change too much. I'm very blessed, man.
You know, I always feel that when people are like, what would you have done differently? And I say, I don't think I would have done anything differently because I learned something unique from each and every scenario.
Yeah. I mean, I have to look at, I mean, I've told y'all this like in the first session.
There's shit I wish I would have known.
Eight banks turned me down. I got the 9th bank from just me walking through Damien's restaurant, and an older gentleman said, "Hey, Johnny, how you doing?" When you're in the restaurant business, you learn how to bullshit. "Hey, how you doing? Good to see you again." I had never seen the son of a bitch in my life. He said, "Well, how's your new deal working out?" I said, "Sir," I said, "it ain't working out good." I said, "Man, almost every bank in Houston has turned me down." He goes, "Well, hold on." Reaching in his pocket, I didn't know this guy's name. His name was Ralph Minchin. He goes, "I'm on the board of Omni Bank on Old Spanish Trail," which, you know, a lot of y'all don't know where Old Spanish Trail is, but it's over there by the University of Houston. I grew up in that area. And he goes, "Talk to Rhonda Lewis." How much time we got, man? Are y'all about ready to go home?
Is what you want.
I feel like my deal is that, so I make the phone call. I didn't know this man from Adam. And then I make the phone call. I didn't know Rhonda Lewis. He gave me the business card, and, you know, he's on the board, and Rhonda's in charge of loans. And I bring my Uncle Damien in, and he's a biscuit over 300 at the time. I'm a biscuit under 300. And, you know, we're dressed up. You know, our goddamn suits are like fitting like this. And I go to the front door, and I said, "Yes, ma'am." I go to the receptionist at the old-fashioned bank. I said, "Yes, ma'am." I said, "I'm Johnny Carrabba, and this is my Uncle Damien Mandola." You know, it looks like, you know, the goddamn Blues Brothers. And I said, or it looked like Dom DeLuise and Danny DeVito. But anyhow, so I said, "Hey," I said, "we're here to see Rhonda Lewis." "Oh, she's expecting you." So, you know, coming down the middle of this damn bank, this lady, you know, with a business suit on comes up, and she walks up to me, and she goes, I said, and I put my hand out, you know, and I said, "Yeah," I said, "Rhonda, I'm Johnny." "Johnny, how in the world have you been doing?" "Well, I've never seen a girl in my life." And I said, "Oh, I'm doing great." You know, you learn how to, you know, bullshit when you're trying to borrow money. And I went to go shake her hand. She gave me a hug. So I'm kind of liking that shit. And so then by this time, I said, "This is my Uncle Damien." "Damien, how you been doing?" And Damien was a biscuit over 300. And she gives him a big hug, right? And me and Damien were like walking behind her. You know, we're looking at her ass and everything. No, but anyhow. So I'm sorry, girls. So we're walking, it's hell being Italian. But anyhow, so we're walking behind her. And he's nudging me like, "How do you know her? Do you know her?" "I don't know her." And I'm thinking maybe I saw her sliding down a pole one time. No. But so we walk, I'm sorry, y'all can never invite me back, but I don't really give a shit. This is my grand finale. And so we're walking behind her, and we tell us a story about what we want to do. Pasta in big bowls, wood-burning pizza oven, open kitchen, waiters, servers that have like bistro aprons, have the gift of gab, and painting the picture of what Carrabba's should be. And she goes, "Well, let me tell you something. Our bank loves to lend money to native Houstonians and family-owned businesses. But I'm a little bit confused because, Johnny, your little Tony Mandola's Blue Oyster on Shepherd in their Cadillac bar is me and my fiance's favorite little restaurant. And Damien, you have our favorite restaurant in the world. That's where my fiance proposed to me at."
Ding.
She goes, "But I'm a little confused. Who's going to run this place?" And Damien goes, "The name of the restaurant's going to be Carrabba's, and Johnny is going to be the managing partner. If that's the case," she goes, "I think we can get the money." That's awesome. And that's when I back up to, "We can get the money for you, but you need $100,000 worth of collateral." And that's when my dad put up the $100,000 CD. So you never know. I tell my young people when I do my orientations, you never know who controls your destiny. I didn't know Tim Gannon from Outback Steakhouse. I didn't know Mr. Ralph Mention sitting on table 14 at Damien's that led me on to Rhonda Lewis. I didn't really know who they were. But I tell my young people, play the game hard because you never know who's going to control your destiny. And I believe in that. Thank y'all.
All right, one more question because I kind of see it in the feed a lot. Eric, you asked a question. I'm not going to answer. I'm not going to answer that one.
Is Eric back over there?
It's like, so what's for sale? He wants to know all the restaurants. You know,
Oh, yeah.
If somebody, and I can't imagine. I know it happens.
Oh, yeah, it does.
I
know this question.
Isn't happy.
Yeah.
All the hospitality that you guys provide. Mm-hmm. All the deliciousness you provide.
No.
Sometimes shit goes sideways. I get it. Mm-hmm. How do you deal with that? It's hard.
No, it's not hard. It's not hard at all.
That sucks.
And that's where you chefs kind of piss me off. A customer's perception is their reality. I can taste it all freaking day long. I wish this was I could let loose. If a customer says something's salty, I can go back there and taste it all day long with my people. Do you think this is salty? No, it's not salty. And I can say, whatever. These people have lost their mind. What are you laughing at? Because you know what I was getting ready to say, right? A customer's perception is the reality. My deal is making people happy. Does that make sense?
100%.
And my deal is that I'm never going to get matter of fact with you. As my consumer, as my friend, as my customer, as the people that paid for my children's education or my house or my kids, my restaurant people, I ain't getting matter of fact with you. Matter of fact attitudes, so I set you straight. Now, I've set about 5 people straight in my career where somebody mistreated one of my employees, and about 5 times. And I told them I'd rather go broke than have you in my restaurant. You ain't talking to my children like that. I say my children, I look at my employees as my children. You ain't talking down to my little 19-year-old hostess that doesn't deserve your bullshit. But customers, I'm an old-fashioned guy. Customers are always right. I know that some chefs out there, those people don't know what they're doing. No, And you know what? Most of the customers are full of shit. I'll tell you one thing, they'll never know it from me. But I guarantee you one thing.
Right now is when you kick your feet up there, baby.
I'm going to tell you something right now. If y'all complain in my restaurant, I'm going to make you feel like you're goddamn like Kim Kardashian. But I tell you one thing, on my way home, I'm going to say, that's a dumb. You ain't gonna know what I'm thinking on my way home. When I tell my manager, they just, shit on it, man. They're fucking, they're idiots. Okay, man, what else?
All right, they did give me a time thing, so.
No, I'm telling you, these people are getting tired, man.
What is the Monday?
Huh?
It's Monday.
It's Monday.
All right.
We got to do this on a Saturday night.
Yeah, they got shit to do tomorrow. I'd like to thank Open Table.
Oh, yeah.
I'd like to thank Deep Eddie. I'd like to thank Elijah Craig for, happiness. Charles, CT Designs, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for taking care of this. You guys need restaurant equipment, that's a guy.
CT Design is right.
They're good people, man.
I taught Charles everything he knows.
For some reason, I don't doubt that. I'd like to thank Stages for having us and really, wanting to do this with us, right? This was, I took some time off when it was getting out of the grind. And like, what do I want to do? And I said, you know what? I just want to sit back and bullshit with my friends. How do we make that happen? Well, y'all made that happen, so.
Thank you.
Thank this guy right here, Johnny Carrabba.
Thank y'all. Thank y'all.
Not just for being here tonight, but really running restaurants in a fantastic manner, creating hospitality for all of us in this city, and giving us as Houstonians a place to hang our hat and really enjoy.
You know, when Chris calls me, I've been telling you, I've been loving this guy. I appreciate, you know, I learned a lot from him.
You yelled at me at 1/5.
But I'm gonna tell you something. When this guy calls me, yes is the answer. What's the question? But I'm gonna tell y'all something right now, and I mean this. I told y'all earlier, there's no remedy for stupid. You can't take a pill to fix this shit. I lied. Swear to God.
Thank y'all very much.
Thank y'all very much.
All right, so thank y'all for coming out. Next week, Chris Williams will be here with us.
Who cares?
Equally as entertaining, amazing stories, good conversations, and then we take a little break until December. So, love you guys. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, brother.